obviously the older games, maybe not entirely historically accurate, given the fact you're jumping off like 300-foot tall buildings and landing in haystacks. But it's like, it's the idea that you can go back and you can see, especially in like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, like the best version I think they've ever done of Rome that they did. If you go to like Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, you get to see like the Caribbean, all those islands off the tip of Florida where pirates were like at their greatest for the most part. And you get to see, especially like in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you get to see like Egypt, that area of the world, right? And it's so cool that we now have a piece where people can go back and see those times, see the buildings, how people would have lived and everything. Obviously not like entirely accurate, but you have like a really rough map of what's going on. And if you want to dig into it, if you're interested in it, you can go behind that. It has all these little cutouts and stuff and like text descriptions of what this building was, why was it special, what was it used for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something that's missing from a lot of people, is that you have a lot of media that doesn't do a good job of explaining like why is this thing an important setting or why is it so interesting. Like the new Assassin's Creed that's going to come out soon, Valhalla, right, with the Vikings. That's going to be an amazing game. I really hope it is because it looks good.
Yeah.
But you know how cool it's going to be to like have an actual game focused primarily around like the history of Vikings, at least if it stays true
And
to
Norse
its roots.
mythology and stuff like that, yeah.
That's going to be amazing to get to see that because at this point, what do you have? Like some old History Channel series they made a couple years ago.
I heard it was pretty good.
It was really
I
good.
heard people really like it.
And it's like, if you want to learn about Norse mythology, like, you don't really have too many options, at least not in a like commercial, widespread sense. It's easy to get into. You have like the people on YouTube that are weirdly fascinated by it. They get like the rune tattoos and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those?
I've seen them on like power lifters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially that big guy, the mountain.
Yeah. Oh man, that guy's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine running into a guy like that at a grocery store. He's got like 400 pounds of meat in his fucking buggy.
God damn, what did you eat? That's got to be a pretty cool job.
Oh, it has to be.
Your whole life is just chomping down. I'm going to guess. I'll have to look it up. I was going to say, Jamie, pull that up. It's like a joke, but I think I read somewhere he eats like 14,000 calories a day. And when you get to that level, those guys are always waking up and they have to eat like in the middle of sleeping. So somebody has to wake them up and say, hey, you got to eat another meal. And I think I did watch it. There was a documentary on Netflix, and I don't remember the name. I think it was like Eddie Hall, something about Eddie Hall.
Right.
And Eddie Hall was like showing you that he's just like a regular guy. Like he has 2 kids, a wife, and they've had to work around his whole like strongman competition, you know. And he's kind of at a disadvantage for his height, because they were saying that guys that are like 400 pounds and like putting their hearts and their organs and like all their muscles like through that kind of stress, they don't really live very long. They don't have like a regular lifespan because they're just overusing everything. And they take ungodly amounts of steroids and eating enormous amounts of food. But I think he was mentioning like he just like a whole cheesecake is no big deal. Like, where's the second one?
God, I wish.
And he's talking about how he eats all this food for like calories, just straight up calories. You need as much calories as you possibly can in order to output all that kind of energy. And damn, I mean, what a fucking job, though.
This is a conversation.
They like deadlift like over 1,000 pounds, man.
Yeah, this is a conversation me and you were having a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
I feel like once you get past 4,000 calories, which is a really high end for like 99% of people, once you get past that, I don't see how you would do it unless you were just eating dirty. Like, you can't eat enough clean food like shrimp or fish or chicken and rice. You've got to just start going to McDonald's, getting like 6 quarter-pounders with a side of nuggets and an apple pie and just shoving it in your face.
You say that, but it's actually kind of funny that there's supplements out there. Like, there's a supplement out there where you can get this powder, and it's like a carbohydrate powder.
Right.
And you put it in water, and it makes the water really gummy. And it's like 50 grams of carbs right there. I don't know how many calories. But you don't necessarily have to eat dirty.
Right.
You can, those guys that are doing that, like 3,000 or 4,000 calories a day, they get a scale out and they measure everything and they make sure that like I'm getting this amount of protein or this amount of carbs or fats at this time every day. And it becomes like this hardcore method of science and like knowing how you want to look. You know, a lot of people have to do this for a living. You know, when you look at like I was watching a documentary about supermodels, like male supermodels, and it's not all fun and games. Like to look like that, it's a challenge. You know, they have to really cut the water out of their diet. They have to take like supplements that will make them pee more, so that way they get all the excess water out. They have to make sure they monitor what kind of fluids they're drinking. They can't just drink orange juice and eat eggs and bacon like a regular person. They have to measure things out so properly with a scale. So if they were like, oh, I can't make it to, you know, the bar this weekend. I can't have, you know, my couple of beers or, you know, my old fashioned whatever. They have to like skip out on all that. They have to, you know, sleep properly and everything. So there's a double-edged sword to those kinds of professions, you know.
You know, speaking of models, I just had a flashback to a college course I took, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was about like how does gender in advertising determine like how it's used, right? And the premise of the entire like block was basically if you were to take an advertisement and make it for a gay man, right? How uncomfortable would you be? Because it's like, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So it's like those Calvin Klein ads, right? Where the dude puts on the jeans and it's always some like young dude, fucking chiseled body, has a girl. Or you get like an ad for a certain cologne and it's this really attractive guy, probably a little older, and he always has a girl on his arm and the girl's looking at him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the basic premise was if you were to change the girl out with a guy that was like looking at the guy, how uncomfortable would most people feel?
There's definitely a percentage of the population that will feel uncomfortable.
And it wasn't even so much a homophobia aspect, like, oh, because they're gay, right? That wasn't the idea. But it was the idea that most advertising is not displaying like a natural interaction of how people actually are, right? Because obviously, right, advertising is like selling dreams and hearts and everything.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
But it's like, it's this idea that so much of advertising is, oh, so men, if you buy this, you're going to get this attractive, amazing woman. And women, this is the kind of man you should want. And one of the reasons it stuck with me is that one of the biggest things women like grow up into, right, is like the beauty culture where you have to do this makeup, you have to have a certain look and everything with your hair. And men necessarily don't have that because so much of it is removed to the realm of like status, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the same reason you don't buy, how many people buy a Corvette just because they want to have a fast car and go to work? You buy a Corvette because you want the status associated with a Corvette, right?
I think that just depends on, I don't know. The Corvette thing,
yeah.
I think if you're a person that's into cars, or like you were saying, you're looking for that status, then yeah obviously. But I don't want speed. I would love a Corvette, but I don't really care about having like V8s or anything. I would love to have a Corvette.
You're missing out, man.
I would love to have this super futuristic fucking machine, you know, have like the hologram dash saying, oh yeah, you're going 50 miles an hour, you know. But I see what you're saying with the whole status thing and advertising. The first thing that pops into mind when you mention all that is Mad Men.
Obviously, you can't discuss like advertising around a fucking film junkie without him thinking of it.
Oh my God, that show in advertising, it opens your eyes what these guys are actually going through, and like all the business deals that advertising is.
Right.
And in what you were mentioning too, like having the audience look at what do you want women to feel when they buy this lipstick? Do you want them to feel like, oh, this lipstick is cheap and it's affordable and it has all of the colors you can think of? Or do you want to go a different route and say, this lipstick was meant for you. It's customizable. It's what you wanted. Pick the way you want to look, you know, and they were kind of deciding like how they wanted to make this commercial and the kind of actress they wanted to use and the message they wanted to send out. And it was so cool because you could see both sides of the spectrum saying like, oh, this is a more happy, fun, affordable product for everybody. Or you could be like a much more sentimental, you know, you need this because it was meant for you.
Yeah.
You know, it was made for you. And just watching those business deals go down, it's just so entertaining.
There was a case in the UK, and I can't remember the name of it right now, which really bugs me. But basically, this guy started this like jewelry company, became a billionaire from it, right? I mean, buku bills. And all he did was sell, I don't want to necessarily say lower end jewelry, but affordable jewelry for people who necessarily couldn't go to like an actual jewelry store, drop 10K on a wedding ring, diamonds for their spouse. And this man made just billions of dollars off of this, right? Until he went to a conference one year and he basically said, I got rich selling you shit at shit prices and you paid for it, right? And then after that news got out, people no longer wanted it. His stores started going out of business because people wouldn't shop with it anymore. And it's like, you know what you were buying. You know for sure you didn't go in there and buy a solid gold ring for $200, right? But once that allure has been broken and somebody tells you you're buying shit, I think most people like lose their desire to have that product because it's not the idea that you bought her a $200 ring, right?
Yeah.
You bought her what you could afford because you love her. Someone says you bought her a shit ring, though. I feel like that's when most people start to lose that allure of what's going on, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because it's so weird to me that you can be okay with something one day, like, oh, yeah, I got this ring. It was the best I could afford. I hope she loves it. And then the dude's like, I sold you a shit ring, and you're just like, fuck it, I don't want it.
What are your favorite commercials? Is there anything that sticks with you?
My favorite commercials?
Yeah.
So I think Apple, early 2000s Apple was like the king of marketing. They had so many hype-ass commercials. It just worked. But second to that would be really irreverent ones that are like, I feel like somebody actually had fun making, even though they are still trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
The old school, what is it, the Reese's Puff commercial with the kids rapping? Reese's Puff, Reese's Puff. That fucking commercial, I love it. The one, it's like creditcheck.com, right? Or whatever. Free credit check, something like that.
Yeah, with the band in the car.
Yeah, and they're like driving around talking about how they can't get a good loan for a good car.
FreeCreditScore.com, yeah.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic, right? Because on one hand, yeah, it's trying to sell me a product, but Kid Me loved it. I was like, it's got a cool little like melody to it, singing. Okay, I can get behind that.
Mm.
Whereas so much advertising just feels almost like a prostitute, right? There's no glitz. There's no glam to it, right? It's saying, give me your money, I'll give you a service, get the fuck out. There's no, hey, this is something cool, this is something fun that you should look at, right? It's just give me your money, I'll give you what you want, get out. And that's so weird to me because it's like, I hate advertising. I think we've had this conversation before, but I hate living in a world that one is already so flooded with like ads and the attention everywhere, and I think is only going to be that way as you go forward, because it's like you're driving down the road, billboards, right? You turn on your radio, fucking ads. You get to the store you're going to, there's ads for the other shops everywhere you go. There's people who wear these shirts that have these logos, and they're basically a walking billboard for a Nike company. Okay, well, it's been around for years, right? That's nothing new. You pick up your phone, right, and you're just trying to watch the freaking news. There's an ad. You're trying to watch a YouTube video. There's an ad unless you pay for it. And I'm thinking about what happens in the future, because it's like Times Square in New York. It's advertising. It's nothing but advertising. And I'm just wondering, smartwatches, do they have ads? If we go into the future of like Google Glass and that sort of thing, are they going to have ads where, oh, you want to keep like watching this or using this app, you have to watch this video? Things like dating apps, right? Obviously, you can't get around the fact that to have a free to access model, money's got to come in from somewhere. But I'm so annoyed at just how much of our life is spent getting sent these ads for stuff that's maybe not even useful to us. Mm-hmm. Like, did 13-year-old me need to see the fucking Viagra ads that came on at 2 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. I don't know if he works right, but I think he does.
Yeah, ads are becoming uncomfortably too involved in everybody's lives, I think. They can be entertaining, though. Super Bowl's that's the best part of Super Bowl. I'm trying to think of ads. Some of the best ones I think are usually the insurance companies. Like,
Yeah, like a tree falls down and just yeets this guy's car.
yeah, and he's like, better watch out for mayhem, guys like me. Is that what you're taken care of by this insurance company?
Or the farmers ones, right?
Yeah, we are farmers, and then they just like, oh, we need an agent right now. There's a bear attacking us. Oh, don't worry, we got you covered.
We know a thing because we've seen a thing.
Comes over and he like teleports them out there. It's like, I don't know. They're always silly. The Progressive Girl.
Oh,
Flo.
yeah. Was it Progressive that did the cowboy ones? Where like he's riding off into the sunset on his horse and he rides into the Progressive logo? Like gets thrown off a horse?
I don't remember. I think those are pretty good. I used to love watching specific ones with my dad. There was like, my dad would always like reference some of these. Like, he's like, hey man, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. And you just see this guy in a pirate outfit, and he's like, oh, I'm a pirate. So every time I would tell my dad, I'm hungry, he'd be, I'm a pirate.
So,
or that other one that we always reference, it's like, oh, yeah, you
You
gotta be quicker
almost-
than that.
you almost had it.
Which one's that one? That's like an insurance company, isn't it?
Yeah, that's I want to say that's Progressive almost, because it's like the dude fishing in the laundromat or whatever, and the girl's like, I'm trying to get my money back from my insurance company.
Speaking of references, how many times do we fucking reference SpongeBob?
Oh, I'm almost certain SpongeBob is like a cultural icon at this point.
SpongeBob is referenced at least 6 times a day. Like I don't know. It's too fucking funny still. Like years and years after that show's been out. I don't know what happened to SpongeBob. SpongeBob kind of like, it was really good those first, I want to say, what,
5 years,
7,
6 years.
10 seasons, and then it just like had a huge dip in being funny anymore. Like it got to the point where it was like just way too cringy to watch.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
I think it's like every good show or every good thing, right? I think once people make something for a certain amount of time and you lose that creative spark, then you're just looking for ways to keep it going. Because it's like South Park, it's like Family Guy, it's like The Simpsons, anything that's been on for, I want to say, longer than 5 or 6 years, right? And it's why I think so many shows, the final season is like the weakest season, right? Because you can tell that that train is running out of steam, but there's such an enormous market success for it that it's hard to just cut it. And so what happens is you have like corporate executives going, SpongeBob is making a fucking $1 billion a year. You're not going to stop making this. Whereas a dude is like, what episode do I make now? I've done the one where I put him in a fucking freezer and he wakes up in the future. I've done the one where he goes back in time, SpongeGar, I've done the one where Plankton actually gets a formula and the whole show is like completed. So where do I go now? Because I got some guy breathing down my neck telling me I have to do it. But what do I do? And I think you see that in like I've said,
You're
every
exactly
single
right.
form, right? When there's no passion there, what do you do?
But goddamn, those first fucking seasons are gold, man. Those seasons are gold. I think my favorite SpongeBob episode is like where him and Patrick like end up going to Sandy's bubble. Her little,
And the hibernation one.
yeah, and I love the part where they rip her fur off with like duct tape, and he's like, "Pat, are you crazy?" No, I'm warm. And they have fucking goatees and beards, and they're out there like doing snowball fights, playing Dirty Dan. Like,
Yeah.
that's the funniest one, man.
It's like the best part of it
Fuck.
is everybody knows that episode. I'm Dirty Dan. No, I'm Dirty Dan. Everybody knows that fucking bit from that episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then like she wakes up, right? And she's like this big, ugly, disfigured monster coming to get him.
She's pretty ugly in that one. And I think the second one I like the most. I reference this all the time. It's like, you want to be a jerk just like me, And he brings out his arms. He's like, how big do you want him?
Be.
Veiny, huge, and for the ladies, hairy.
There's so many good ones, especially like it's a show I haven't seen in years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just have a few burned into my memory. And the one, Living Like Larry.
Living Like Larry. Which one's that one?
The one where like they're at the beach and Larry the lobster, the big lifeguard,
Yeah.
is doing all this stuff and they're trying to like one up him, right? So Larry's like, we're going to swim past the coral reef and we're going to go out to the big waves. And SpongeBob and Patrick are like, living like Larry. I'm almost, dude, it's one of the best episodes.
I haven't seen that one. I'm sure I have, but years and years ago. I'll check it out today.
Right. There's another one. What is it? I think the caveman episode is really good too. And I think what's really crazy is how good the movie is, because so many of those movies are like, obviously like cash grabs, just saying, oh, we made a movie, you have to watch it now. Like Steven Universe made a movie, and I'm convinced it's garbage. You know, hate me all you want. But the SpongeBob movie is legitimately good. Bold. When they run into like King Neptune and everything, it's really good. You know, another show, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one, but did you ever watch, oh my god, what was the name of that show? It was like the Shaolin monks. It was on Cartoon Network, and it was about like these Shaolin monks, right? I don't remember anything else about the show except there was one episode where they had to go across all of China without like spilling a drop of water from a glass. And so what they did was like drunk it, kept it in their mouth, and then spit it back in the cup every now and then. And I have no fucking idea why that stayed with me.
Shaolin monks. There was a show with Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan Adventures.
That was good. I don't think that's what that is.
No?
The Shaolin monks though?
No, it was much different.
Shaolin monks. Omi, was that the guy's name?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think I know. I remember what you're...
They're like the yellow monks with like the bald heads and stuff.
Yeah, there used to be like video games for that show. Yeah, I think it was called Shaolin Monks. It was something else. It was like something Shaolin Monks. And the kid's name was Omi. And I used to call my brother Omi all the time to make fun of him. He would always get upset.
Did you ever see the recreation of Speed Racer that came on Nickelodeon?
No.
So Speed Racer, if you ever go back and watch like 1960s, 70s version, it's fucking one of the greatest, hilarious shows I've ever seen, because so much of it is so awkward, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, shit. This better be good.
There's this one scene where they're doing this race for this prize, right? And so Speed Racer's best friend calls him, right? And she's like, Speed, you've got to let her win the race. And Speed is like, why? Why would I lose on purpose? And the girl is like, he needs the money. If he doesn't... If he doesn't get the money, he won't be able to afford his sister's cancer treatment, right?
What?
And fucking Speed Racer goes, if he wants it, he has to win. And then it's like, if he wants it, he has to win. And then you see him just fucking stomp the gas all the way to the floor.
Just lets the person die.
Yeah. And then it finishes, right?
Yeah.
And you just see Speed Racer get out of a car looking at the crowd. And, of course, this is 1960s animation, so he gets out and he's just going... It's like, dude, old school cartoons are rough, bro.
Yeah, man. It's speaking of, like, shitty animation, that is exactly why I loved South Park when it first came out. Because it was so bad. The animation was so bad that it just made it more funny. I remember, like, I think the first episode is, like, where Cartman gets an anal probe from aliens.
Yeah.
And you just see, like, aliens waddling. Like, they don't even walk in this show. They're just like, you know?
I think South Park is a lot like WWE, right? And, like, wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people hate it because they've only seen the bad parts. But in the same way that WWE wrestling is, like, the best fucking drama ever made in the history of this planet when it's done right, I think South Park, when it hits a nail on the head, is one of the best shows to watch. Because there's a few of them, like the one they did on Al Gore and Man Bear Pig, right?
Yeah.
Fucking
that is
genius.
So good.
The entire thing is just genius.
Yeah.
Or the one they did, is it Justin? No, it's like Snooki that becomes like a 50-foot tall fucking rat and like busts into the Justin Bieber concert.
Yeah.
That entire thing, amazing. But then you have so many of the other ones that are so forgettable and just plain stupid.
Yeah, like the pee There's like pee like in a water park or something. Oh, we have to stop at the pee. It was like
Yeah.
whatever.
Or like the World of Warcraft one they did was super freaking good too.
Yeah, that was.
If you can get a
See
whole
that fucking neckbeard dude.
Yeah.
Fucking fat as fuck. Oh, his mom has to come in and like, and he takes his shit. He's like, mom, bathroom. You see his fucking mom roll up with a bucket, like, oh, what a big boy, what a good boy. He's fucking shitting all over his mother.
oh god.
This is
Or-
horrible, man.
Or it's like what's the episode when the kids call Randy's dad a artard and he becomes so fascinated with it?
I don't remember.
They call him an
Oh.
artard and he's like, you can't call me that. And then he goes home and he just starts using it like fucking religiously, right? Calls his boss an artard, calls his wife an artard.
Puts his nuts in a fucking wheelbarrow.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Yeah. It's like, what's wrong, officer? Fucking so stupid. I have another. Okay, I want to ask you,
Right.
because I like talking to you about movies, TV shows, and all that kind of stuff. We do it all the time. What would your top three? I'll say top four, because 3 is always tough.
Yeah.
Give you one more for leeway, a little wiggle room. What are your top 4 movies of all time?
I don't know. That's obviously this is one of those questions where you flounder for a little bit to like decide.
Yeah.
But
Anything that comes to mind, like just directly?
so for me, one of my favorite movies is The Revenant that came out in like 2016 with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I think it's like some grand storytelling phenomenon. In fact, I think the story was really weak on it, right? But so much of that movie is shot so freaking well that I have a really hard time. Like, I feel like when I say this is art, I feel like this is the kind of thing I want to show to somebody, right? This is the kind of movie I want to sit somebody down and say, watch this. Pay attention to how the camera draws. Pay attention to how they like frame stuff, right? Because you have this movie that's incredibly fucking violent. In the first 10 minutes, some dude gets shot in the eye with an arrow, and then the Indian comes along and fucking rips the arrow out. You just have wholesale like slaughter, right? And the whole movie is just terrifyingly violent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's contrasted by the beauty in the rest of it, like the buffalo scenes, the dream scenes, the rest of nature shots. So I'd say that's up there. Second movie. Oh man, this is rough. My second movie, I would probably have to give credit to. I don't even know if this is going to be a best of so much as a personal favorite. Do you remember old Adam Sandler movie Click
Yeah.
with like the remote? I remember
do.
fucking crying at the end of that movie when I was younger, right? Because
Yeah.
I was just like, damn.
I think Kate Beckinsale was his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's super cute. Movie was a super good movie, and it had such a dark outcome at the end.
Yeah, that's what I love. I've always had like a soft spot for movies that aren't afraid to like tango with reality, which is like Uncut Gems. Have you had a chance to see it?
I've already seen past. I was stopped right when he got the stone from that country, and Kevin Garnett was like, "No, fam, let me take it for the game." Blah blah blah. That's as far as I got. I'm trying to finish it, but I haven't had time.
So I can't talk about it until you finish it.
Okay.
But I will say that is a movie that has grown really deep to me. Like
Yeah.
since I saw it when it came out, right?
You talk about it all the time.
Because the ending of that movie makes the whole 2-hour affair just worth it, right?
Okay.
You get to the ending, and I'm not even like exaggerating right here. You walk out of a theater like I did, and you just have this fucking like dreadful, almost sick feeling in your stomach, right? I'm not gonna spoil it though, so we got to move on.
Okay.
I would be willing to argue that Blade Runner, the original 1980 release.
Yeah, with Harrison Ford.
Yep. Oh, you know it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep. I would say that one is probably my favorite movie of all time, just because I think it's a movie that like spurred my interest in sci-fi and stuff, and it's so fucking cool. It's a city, right, where you have these different languages, people living in like really shitty conditions. You have these robots that are made to exist, do work, and they're like trying to figure out how to live longer. You have all these discussions on what it means to be alive, and the whole movie is just fucking beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the scene at the end that everybody talks about, the little monologue, you know, gone like tears in the rain. I think that's probably my favorite movie of all time, one of the best. And then I guess for the final spot, I don't even know, man. It's been a while since I really watched a movie. Besides, like, Marriage Story, obviously, right? I would say...
Marriage Story was great. Thank you for that recommendation. Marriage Story was... I haven't seen a love story, or I guess a divorce story more, what that is. But I haven't seen something that was so good, like in all the dialogue and like all the conversations that they had. It just beyond real. It felt really cool to watch.
I really enjoy it because, one, Adam Driver is fucking fantastic actor.
Yeah.
He also has a weird face. He's like ugly but attractive at the same time, and I'm hoping I can look like that as I get older.
Yeah.
No, I'd have to say The Fundamentals of Caring, again, another Netflix movie, because it like hit all those places for me, but I really enjoyed a movie. Huh?
Who's in it?
There's like almost no big names in it because it was a really low budget film, but the premise of a movie is you have this guy that starts working as like a I don't even know what to call it, in-home health assistant. So like the guys that go to disabled people's houses and starts taking care of them, right? You need to use a bathroom, you need food, okay, I got you. And he gets called to this kid's house to help him out while his mom's at work. Kid is completely disabled, wheelchair bound, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they start planning a road trip. And this kid wants to go and see all of these like little like national treasures that he sees on TV all the time. And he wants to go to this one like waterfall type area a few states away. Well, over the course of the movie, he eventually convinces his mom to, yeah, we're going to go on a road trip. They start going, and this guy realizes just how fucked up it is to take a kid who's wheelchair bound on a road trip. One of my favorite scenes from a movie, or two really, is that the kid starts pretending to choke on fucking beef jerky as they're going down the road, right? So the dude like whips the van over into the off of a main road. He runs over, tries to start doing the Heimlich, and the kid just starts laughing, right? Back to the James. It's a fucking fantastic scene. And then the final one, obviously since the kid is wheelchair bound, he can't stand up. But he wants to piss over the side of his cliff into the canyon, right? So they like hook him up to a little board or whatever, and they stand him up and they just let him. I know it sounds really fucking stupid right now, but when you watch the entire movie and you see like how they grow together, it's a fantastic movie. Especially if you're like, if you want something that like, I've always been a big fan of like disabled positivity type stuff, right? Because that's something that's always bothered me. Is how easy it is to forget those kind of people exist and that they have needs and desires like everybody else, right? Because it's like a lot of people have these silent disabilities you can't see or can't pick up on, right? And then you have people that are like wheelchair bound or just anything like that. So to have a movie that kind of showcases you don't have to be, I don't even know the proper word for it, you know, full abled body to still have like a happy, enjoyable life, I think is a good message to send more often. But it's a fantastic movie regardless.
Yeah, I always feel kind of hesitant about Netflix series because I'll try them, and I don't know what it is. It just doesn't always feel... I guess my expectations for them are so high is what it is. Because I'll watch something, and it just doesn't feel like Mad Men or Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. I've gotten so spoiled with the best ones that I'm expecting all of these to be just on that same level. But I'll probably check it out. I'll put it on like that little list of things to check out. Just text it to me.
Yeah.
But I would say I want to talk about my favorite movies for sure.
All right, let's get it.
Number one, hands down, of all time, I've seen it at least like over 1,000 times. I've always had this movie in the background on repeat. I know I love watching the behind the scenes of this movie. I love knowing about all the people that worked on the movie and like their backgrounds and like where they come from. I go fucking in a rabbit hole about this movie all the time. I love The Matrix. I absolutely love everything about The Matrix. And I watch the behind the scenes all the time. I love to see that the people that were making this movie, the Wachowski brothers, I think now one of them's a woman. I don't know what.
Yeah, they're both actually.
So they're the Wachowski sisters, I guess now. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. I just know it's the Wachowskis that they, at the time when they were making this movie, they were like truly the biggest comic book nerds, guys that loved video games and going to ball games and sports and movies, and all they did was just live their entire lives just being fucking nerds. They loved to write and read comic books all day. And I've never seen like two regular guys, like it could happen to anybody, just make one of the craziest all-time best sci-fi movies ever made, with like the craziest philosophical points coming out. And I used to always wish that maybe one day a Morpheus would call me up in the middle of school and say, to your left, there's a door. Walk through there. Don't make any eye contact. Somebody's following you, and just like hope that somebody will take me out of this fucking world we live in now and send me out to the Matrix. I always wanted that to happen. But anyway, in the behind the scenes footage, you get to see they hired real kung fu masters. I mean, guys that have been doing kung fu since they were boys. I believe the kung fu master they had on, his name was Wu Ping. And at the time, Wu Ping was doing another Chinese movie, doing like a kung fu movie. But once he saw the camera capabilities and like the bullet stop motion techniques and all the people involved and like where they were shooting in Australia, he was like, holy shit, like I'm going to be over there ASAP. That movie's for me. And they got all of the main actors that were doing kung fu to learn kung fu like for like, I think 8 months to a year, something like that. So while they were getting all the production ready and getting like all the like the smaller scenes with all the bullet stuff going on, I mean, they had their own kung fu instructors for them personally, and they would try to teach them how to like run on walls and shit, and they would like strap on harnesses, and they would like learn how to run on the green screen wall. And they were like, hey man, your homework for this movie is to watch kung fu movies and hang out with all your friends and like say, oh, this is what's good, this is what's bad. And like everybody seemed like they were having like the time of their lives making this project. And the whole like bullet stop thing where he flies back. And I loved everything about that movie. I loved that it was always talking about how just because we live in this world doesn't mean that you can't go above and beyond. Neo had to just believe that he could do anything, and he did. And that's how he was able to like bend the Matrix all the time, and how to like fly, move faster than anybody's ever moved before. It's all because he just like sat down and he believed. And there's all kinds of really cool references to like Alice in Wonderland and like that kind of like hacker, lifestyle.
Subculture.
Yeah, that subculture where you have like Rob Zombie in the background. Be the bitches. It's just all cool. And I loved everything about it. Number 2, I'm a huge fan of Daniel Day-Lewis in all of his movies. I've never seen an actor be more dedicated to movies than he is. He takes like his own life, like his like years of his own life, to dedicate to researching and developing and making these characters, and being so in character that he just doesn't break out of them. He will be that character for that period of time. And he mentions in interviews that he has a very dedicated wife, somebody that's able to take on all of these different personalities and realize like he's still in there somewhere in his mind. But for this next year, I'm going to be Abraham Lincoln. But my second favorite movie is going to be I think There Will Be Blood. And every time I watch that movie, I sit down and I start to realize that he wasn't even though the movie portrays him in the end as like a bad guy, I don't think he was necessarily a bad character to begin with. I mean, he took in that orphan child because he was working on like an oil rig, and one of the guys he was working with had a kid, and the guy had an accident out there. He died, and Daniel Day-Lewis saw that little kid like had nothing, like it was just kind of left there. So he took it in, I think, for the goodness of his heart. But you see through the process of the movie that kind of work and that kind of like cutthroat kind of business of oil, and how he had to make his own money on his own and figure out how to make his own plant, his own industry, how to persuade people to let him buy land and get workers and stuff like that, and how to manipulate people. All of this business, it created a way for himself to consume himself. You start to see like just, you know, every 20, 30 minutes in the movie, he just gets even darker and darker and darker and darker until he becomes a different person. And I loved watching that transformation. It's something that goes on in a lot of his movies, even like My Left Foot or Abraham Lincoln or whatever. The dedication is extreme. I think Quentin Tarantino said that Daniel Day-Lewis is so good that we could have probably watched 2 hours of him breaking his leg in one of those oil wells, and then crawling back to the next town, and it would be that interesting because he's that character, so he's going to be making decisions the whole time. He never doesn't have like a path to go to. He always, I don't know, he's very special. Probably the best actor of our time. And number 3, I think my most entertaining actor I like to watch, and I love his charisma. I love watching this guy on screen because he just has this charm to him. Like, even though he's not the best looking actor in the world, he's not like necessarily a Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, or anything like that. But I love watching Jack Nicholson in everything. But I think number 3 would be The Shining.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah, I love watching it every Halloween, all the time. But that movie in general, you know, watching the behind the scenes for that too. I loved watching Stanley Kubrick and him work together and try to figure scenes out. And you know that scene where he's like, "Here's Johnny," and you know he's busting open the door. I believe they said that they did that scene like over 100 times, and they had to keep getting new doors and like they had to keep trying different things. And Stanley Kubrick was interesting because he was getting inside of the heads of the actors. He was fucking them up like so mentally that's what he wanted. He wanted like this bizarre like feeling throughout the whole movie, and it was so experimental. And Jack Nicholson just being him, like as creepy as he is, I don't know why. It's just he's such a likable guy. And the way that they portray like him losing his mind, you know, like when he's in the bar, or like when he enters that room you're not supposed to go into, and you know he sees like the beautiful woman in the shower, and then all of a sudden he's like hallucinates her into, you know, this really like zombie looking woman. Anyway, the whole movie is just freaking sick. I love everything about it.
I do remember one specific thing about like you know, the manuscript that he's been working on or whatever that his wife comes across, and it's like all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy or whatever. So it would have been like perfectly fine to just do the first 3 or 4 pages of that and just leave the rest blank underneath, right? Found out he actually had his secretary type up like 250 pages of different like phrases of that sentence. Just 250 different pages of just that same sentence again and again and again, typed up on like a typewriter manually. That's how much work he'd put into that, and it's crazy.
It's so fucking cool. And there's so many, and that's not the only thing. Like there's so many things in all of Stanley Kubrick's movies that always have like a really special meaning in them all the time. Or like even like I think they said like one of the guy's ties in the movie is the same exact shape as the maze that's within the one they get lost in at the end.
Right.
Yeah, they have everything in that movie.
God, it would have sucked to work for him, though. You met in the 100th take of trying to break through that door.
Yeah, it'd be a puzzle for sure. And all of his movies are good, like Eyes Wide Shut. I don't know if anybody ever wants to. Anybody that's listening to this, you should definitely see Eyes Wide Shut, 2001: A Space Odyssey. What else has he made? Full Metal Jacket.
Right.
I mean, all of those, like top tier best movies of all time. You know, all my fucking phone is named HAL 9000. You know, I'm so addicted to Stanley Kubrick's movies, but I like that, and then I like The Dark Knight. The
one with
Heath Ledger.
Right.
I think that one. God, when I started acting in high school, I barely just started acting, and I watched that right after my dad had died. And actually, I wasn't acting. I was doing like poetry and prose, I think. at the time. And my dad had died in 2008, so that movie came out in 2008. And when I saw that movie, I was always thinking, like, damn, I wish my dad was here to watch that with me. But I was so baffled by how good that movie was. I was like, I've never seen anything like that before. I wanted to see it like 4 or 5 times after that. And I had no idea who Heath Ledger was. I didn't even know. Like, everybody was upset that he was the Joker. I always heard that, like, oh, they're putting this pretty boy as, Heath as the Joker. This was a bad choice, blah, blah, blah. But I remember watching that and the intensity that he brought to that Joker role, and like, just, I don't know, like there was something so extremely frightening hearing him talk about like how his father would get drunk and like, get the knife and cut his face up, or the way that he viewed things. He was just like, I'm just an agent of chaos, go ahead, flip the fucking coin, shoot me in the head.
He's like the mayhem guy from the insurance
yeah,
commercial.
the mayhem guy in Batman. But he was really special. I think Heath Ledger, if he was still around, he probably would have been up there, with the best, making some crazy movies. But I ended up really liking his performance, and I dug into a bunch of his other movies. He made another movie about heroin. Him and a girlfriend of his were getting into heroin, and his dad was like into drugs and stuff. And in this movie, I was watching it because I was playing a character that was addicted to heroin.
Yes.
But what was interesting is that he's also one of those other guys that gets super dedicated to stuff. He was actually shooting heroin for the movie, and I heard that he actually got addicted to it. He had to get some stuff done. But I think that's why I like actors so much in general, is that they just go above and beyond and do really strange, really weird things and techniques, and they love to like bend the mind and what is possible, and I love watching that process. I know it's, for some people, it's probably really strange to see somebody talk in a completely different accent, and then I don't know, maybe you start to develop an impediment, where your impediment is like, you lick your lips like Heath Ledger does, like, and then living with that for a couple of months, and then, dedicating your whole time and space to, how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, how you think, how, what affects you, what were you doing last week? And you write it down. What were you doing a month ago? What's your relationship to this? And finding those things that, as an actor, like if you're a character, what has meaning to you? What is difficult to do for you? What is going to happen to this person if there's a time element involved? And it becomes such an addicting process. I can't wait to go back to it. But Heath Ledger was definitely a big part of that, and me getting into it, because I would also watch the behind the scenes for The Dark Knight and read up on him and stuff like that.
Something I think you mentioned kind of briefly is how weird, or not weird, I guess, but eccentric, like creative personalities, especially the bigger ones, seem to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, if you look at some of the greatest writers, authors, musicians, painters that have lived, it's almost like that element of eccentricity is what gives them that ability to go out there and make something that's just so amazing and like outside of a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Heath Ledger, right? I've never been so dedicated to a job, I would start shooting up heroin if that's what they asked me to do. I've never had a job like that. And I'm pretty sure heroin is pretty badass, but it's like Ernest Hemingway, right?
Yeah.
You know him.
Yeah, one of the greatest writers of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, wrote his books, went to fucking bullfights in Spain, sat there in the crowd side and would write a story on what he'd seen. Was a reporter during the Spanish Civil War in the years following World War II. That's amazing, right? But how many people were like, oh yeah, I'm writing books about the bullfight I just got off at, Oh, I'm writing a book about the Spanish Civil War I've been in for the last 3 months. Oh, I wrote a book about getting blown up in World War I when I was working as a hospital, driver. And it's crazy, just especially on the actor side, because I feel like actors nowadays probably have more popularity and like a wider spread attention for them.
Yeah.
But there's so many actors. I don't even know how to say his name. Joaquin Phoenix, you know what I'm
Joaquin.
Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
If you watch a lot of the videos or interviews he's done, he's basically always smoking, which is not an eccentric thing. But a lot of ways he answers and just like acts, you know, it's like you really pick up on the feeling that this is somebody that you kind of lives in his head almost, right? And like from talking to you especially, you guys, so many actors are creative types in general, just have this absolute like fascination and obsession with this idea of perfection in the thing they make. And it's not for some idea of fame, right? Because you meet a lot of people who are like, oh, it'd be cool to be an actor and be famous. But you meet these people that have like an actual obsession and dedication to their craft. It's like this table here, you know? They're not obsessed with this idea of, oh, well, I made a table and now people are going to pay money for it. It's, oh my God, look at this table. Look at the wood grain in it. Look at how sturdy it is. And it's so cool to see somebody who has that dedication towards something, that they want to give up a year of their life, years of their life, in order to make something that's going to be resolute, that somebody could watch in 50, 60 years. And like Citizen Kane, do you think that's
still a great movie?
When those people were making that movie, do you think they're going, oh, we're going to be famous, millionaires? No. Do you think they were sitting down saying, maybe in 100 years, somebody's going to pick this up, watch it, and you're just going to be blown away?
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking amazing that you have a group of people who can come together, right, and have that kind of dream, that vision, to make what's essentially fucking telepathy, you know, sharing your thoughts with somebody that's not currently present, which I think is amazing. It's magic. Movies are magic. Writing music is magic.
It's pretty badass. Yeah, I think you mentioned the word eccentric. The first thing that popped into my head was like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And thinking about like Hunter S. Thompson and Johnny Depp put together. That's like an eccentric volcano.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And even the behind the scenes for them too. Like I was watching a documentary about Johnny Depp and Hunter S. Thompson doing that movie. And they were just following each other around the whole time. Anywhere Hunter S. Thompson went, Johnny Depp went. And Johnny Depp would like mimic him to the extreme, like wear the exact same clothes, you know, do everything that he did. He was even dropping acid and doing all kinds of crazy drugs like coke and meth and everything, like in Las Vegas, like Hunter S. Thompson did when he wrote the actual story where he was doing it for real, you know. And God, like speaking of another eccentric things, Johnny Depp, I was super into the newer Alice in Wonderlands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because when you watch the behind the scenes for that, you'll get to see Johnny Depp in a complete green screen area, and he's sitting in like his chair. You know, he's got his whole Mad Hatter outfit with the makeup and everything on, and he is talking to nothing, but like a child or, you know, like a very experienced, you know, person with imagination, he's able to imagine that Cheshire Cat is right there, and, you know, and he's like, oh, hello, you know, how are you doing today? And, you know, he just lets it go. He's free, and it's so cool to like watch him, you know, act like, you know, there's this here and that there and that there, and he's just in the zone, and he's in zen, and it's so fucking gangster to watch. I love watching that.
I saw a post on Reddit this morning that you just reminded me of. It's like you have a green screen on the wall and the floor, right? And you have this girl that's walking across back and forth. And obviously, as you might imagine, right, they're like editing things onto it, but they do it in real time. So you see the green screen on like the top of your screen and the result on the bottom. And it's so cool to see how just this empty room with like this green little cloth on it makes this fictional science fantasy world, right? And it made me realize so many of the things that I'd come to love growing up, right? Like if you watch any kind of sci-fi stuff, especially in the modern age now, Star Wars especially, how much of that stuff was one, analog and physical, because we know a lot of it was, but two, if they'd had the technology they do now, like with the newer Star Wars movies, can you imagine just how crazy that is to be able to just, I don't like the way that window looks. Put a new one there.
Yeah.
I don't like, just all that shit is so amazing, dude. Just being able like to synthesize fucking space and a spaceship in it, and just you send it off to a like computer animation company and they just do it, and then you make your movie. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's fucking amazing.
I think Steven Spielberg was mentioning, like at the time Jurassic Park, the first one came out, that green screen and like all that stuff, it wasn't even like really ready yet. Like it was just not a thing. And so he still made like animatronic like heads for the dinosaurs, and then they tried to green screen the other parts of it. But it was like a really interesting process too.
James Cameron Avatar, right?
Yeah.
His script was done in like 95, but he thought, I don't have the technology to make this. So they pushed it back to like that 2008 period, right? And it hit me as that movie is so fucking good. I know a lot of people will disagree because like they don't like necessarily the story pacing from what I've heard. But the effects in that movie, especially when you go back and watch them, are fucking phenomenal. Another movie you could point at is like Starship Troopers.
I love that movie.
Yes,
pretty
they
good.
use so much CGI and everything
I haven't
in
seen
it.
that in a while.
But the bugs look realistic. Obviously, don't watch 2 or 3, but in the first one at least, the fucking animation is amazing.
You know what? There was a movie that I love to go watch all the time because it's a bit of like a survival movie. It does not have very good CGI. It does not. I will repeat that. It does not. But the movie itself is still pretty good. It was called The Mist, and I believe Stephen King he was the one that wrote it.
The one where they're in the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. And he has so many goddamn books and stories that like they really could be great movies. They could be amazing movies. But I don't know why somebody just doesn't know how to get it down. I don't know.
You mentioned the Shining earlier, right?
Yeah.
Stephen King fucking
hated
it. Yes. And that's what gets me is you have critically acclaimed book, critically acclaimed movie. Guy who wrote critically acclaimed book fucking hates the movie they made, right? Even though most people, I think, would agree it's a fantastic movie.
It's a cult classic.
And I think the biggest problem with so much of Stephen King stuff, right? You're talking about 1,000-page books. Like The Stand is like a 1,400-page book. It is like 1,100 pages. You can't fit that into easily bite-sized chunk movies, right? Or you got to have the Twilight shit where you have 4 or 5 different movies for the same idea. And people, they don't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They might watch part 1, part 2, like Harry Potter split-ups. They're not going to go and watch the newest Stephen King 5-part series.
I would if it was done right. Like could you imagine if they had done The Gunslinger by Stephen King?
Well, they did, and they did it fucking garbage.
I know. I avoided it like the plague because I heard it was terrible. The Dark Tower series is my favorite book series of all time. I've never come across another book that like just sucked me in and I read it in like 2 days.
Yeah.
It was so good. But could you imagine if they made The Gunslinger with like Clint Eastwood, right? The perfect gunslinger guy to play. And then maybe they would get like, for the Man in Black, what if they would get like that motherfucker that played, not Gandalf, but the other one.
Sauron?
Yeah, maybe. Like, just like a really crazy wizard-looking dude. Yeah, Sauron, you know. And then what if they got like, I don't know. I feel like if they got like all of the right people that actually cared about movies and stuff like that, like I didn't like any of the decisions they made for that movie. I didn't like any of the things I saw before they made it, and like all the things they said they were gonna do.
So I'm saying is like that first book is at least 600 pages.
No, it's actually 300.
Okay, so
250 maybe.
Remember.
The first book is really short.
So it's like the biggest problem I think too with Stephen King books is that 300 pages of Stephen King is a lot of world building.
Yeah.
Because there's not much like Stephen King goes, all right, here's a world. This is what happens. They go here, right? It's more like, all right, so there's a road next to a house. This house was bad because the house across from it had this happen because the house across from it had this happen. This is your main character. He goes to this house, to this house, to this house, to this house, and then he goes up the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of his books are fucking fantastic. With obviously a lot of people like criticize him for his endings because he can't end a book for shit. But it's like it's really hard to take somebody who has Stephen King's style, especially one that is almost as informal as his is, right? And try and convert it to a movie fashion. Because it's almost like, you've seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, right?
No.
Well, it's almost like that comic book series kind of movie, like Snatch almost.
Snatch is good.
Snatch is
fuck.
You know how
Guy Ritchie
Snatch is
movies.
like just fucking all over the place, right? That's what you have to do with a Stephen King movie, but you have to keep it serious for at least a lot of his books, right? Because do you know 11/22/63?
No.
So 11/22/63 by Stephen King is about what if his English teacher in 2013 had the chance to go back in time to 1958 and stop the assassination of JFK. That's like big overview picture. But it's like 1,200 pages, right? How do you make a movie about somebody, one, finding out there's time travel, going back 5 years before JFK's assassination, realizing all the stuff that's going to happen if he does change time, going back and forth multiple times because he fucked something up and now he has to fix it.
Yeah.
All the continuity errors, like, oh, I can't take my phone because if I bring a phone in 1958, they're going to kill me. Oh, this modern dollar bill that got issued in 1959, I can't bring it back then, right?
Right.
And so you can't fit all of that into an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour movie without just fucking just cramming, and it's just not good.
But I mean, look at the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. Those books are fucking huge, and they know how to make it work, you know.
Yeah, but they're all like 3 hours a piece, and that's what I'm saying. If you watch the entire series to get the understanding of the way it was supposed to be, that's 9 hours. Dude, that's a long ass time.
It is, but they're still to this day, like, everybody loves them. I don't know anybody that doesn't like it.
You know, there was a comparison I saw on Reddit about like the Battle of Helm's Deep versus King's Landing in not King's Landing, but what the fort in like the Battle of Season 8, right?
God, I haven't seen Game of Thrones since I joined the military. It's about a year ago.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I just saw the comparison, and it's like, it's amazing that a movie from the late 90s, early 2000s can look better than something that came out in 2019. I mean, it just fucking blows my mind.
Yeah, man.
Those orcs, amazing.
Yeah, from Lord of the Rings, fucking sick. Sick as fuck.
The Hobbit orcs, not so much.
They're like hard to look at. You're like, oh, I don't want to look at you anymore.
You're ugly.
Yeah. But I think reading the second book too. I finished the second book a couple of months ago. I've never seen somebody describe what it's like to like enter through another world through like a mirror, you know. He was talking about like how in the second book, I guess I'm not really spoiling anything. Those books have been out forever. But he was like trying to blend in that fantasy world that the gunslinger lives in and our world, and you know, the time periods and stuff, and like how the gunslinger was like becoming part of like this cocaine addict's mind and stuff, and like how he could like switch in and out through this mirror, or like take control of him or vice versa, you know, and like how they were going to survive like with gunfights and deadly crabs, and you know, like the book is incredible. Like I said, I've never read anything like this. This is like, I think I really want to make, God damn it, I wish I could be a director and make this goddamn movie and do it right.
Shit, we get started.
Fuck, yeah, get my little camcorder over there.
It just like a
little
shitty
outfits and shit.
A shitty Aaron Black cosplay from like Mortal Kombat X.
Oh god, yeah, that'd be pretty silly. But Martin, it looks like we're about to run out of time here, but I really appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can do more podcasts in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you later.